All right, we are back. Another Tim Cain video. Staying healthy while developing games. An oxymoron if I ever heard it. But maybe Tim has some good advice.
Hi everyone, it's me, Tim.
Hi, Tim.
Today I want to talk about recent findings in fossilized endothermic therapsids. Now these studies are really exciting because... Oh, wait a minute. Nope, that'll have to wait. I want to answer a question from a master member about staying healthy while developing games.
I was curious about that though. I would have listened to it. Tim, if you want to make a video talking about that, I would listen to it too.
Answer a question from a master member about staying healthy while developing games. This came from master member RoboCG, who literally asked this in my previous video about being happy. And he asked, do you have ideas about being healthy? From what I can see, a lot of my fellow game devs, mostly artists, are not having a healthy work-life balance, which has caused some serious health-related issues. Maybe you have some stories. Ergonomics might be a side theme for that. It feels like most people neglect it. Me? Stories? Yes. Before I start...
I would say any game developer who's worked on at least one commercially released title is going to have stories not always positive about their experience. And the more games you work on, the more stories you have. I could go on for hours and hours about the stories, but you know what? Sometimes it's just that the bad outshadows the plenty of good. You know, even the games that I think were not produced very well that I've worked on, or I made really bad decisions with design, I still have mostly positive feelings about working on it from a day-to-day standpoint. And like the people I work with, it was great, you know, just sharing jokes, hanging out, having a beer after work. You meet some really great people in this, but yeah, it is fucking stressful. I agree, Fluffy Panda. It is just, it's draining, and it feels like if you have passion in the industry, people will weaponize that, and you know, it's very easy to get demoralized, disenchanted. I don't even think it's artists that I see with these problems. I mean, I have programmer friends who get burnt the hell out. I have artists who get burnt the hell out, designers who fight and struggle and feel like, you know, they designed this perfect game, but because of production issues, you have to cut it in half, and so you've just like wasted 3 years of your life developing a game that could have been so much more. And then you think it's like, okay, 3 years. That's one of my 10 games that I'll work on in my career. Gone. Messed up. How do we avoid this with the next one? Oh, I'm working at the same company and they didn't learn anything from their failures. There goes another 3 years. Or, God forbid, I try to switch my jobs in the middle of the industry as it is now, and I'm competing with thousands of people for the same position. And rejection, or worse yet, you just get ghosted on your emails, and you're expected to write a CV and a cover letter that is tailored for that specific studio. But how the hell do you write a different cover letter for each studio when really what you just need is money on the table? Like, what am I supposed to write? Imagine the mental situation No Man's Sky devs had when they released. I can't imagine that. I just hope they're doing better now, because honestly, they are making a much better game now.
Start though, let me just say this.
Okay.
I have talked about work-life balance before. I have a whole video about it. I'm going to link it below. I don't want to repeat that here. I want this to be about ways I think companies have helped their employees stay healthy. And
it is obviously you crunch them real hard and then you buy them pizza once and then you are like, hey, what do you guys, huh? I bought you guys pizza. Why don't you feel better?
If you want to talk about
or
work-life,
we paid for overtime, therefore it's okay, right? Like, we made you crunch, but we paid for it.
Balance. Please watch and comment on that video, not here. A lot of people view everything through the work-life balance, and at least we can keep those comments in an appropriate video. And I will answer them. I read all my comments. It doesn't matter if you comment on something a year ago or something recent. I read them and respond to them if I should respond to them. And that's something else. It's just if you have a question about something and I have something related to it, it's way better for you to answer there because or for you to ask your question there because if I answer, now it's under a relevant video where I've discovered that I have several questions I've answered over and over and over again because people ask them in the most recent video and I answer. And then a few months will go by and someone will ask the exact same question in the most recent video and I answer. And none of them are under any of the videos that are appropriate. Right. So again, if you have a work-life balance question or comment, there's a work-life balance video linked below. What I want to talk about are negative health issues that game development seems to universally cause, not just in artists. I'm talking here as a programmer, designer, producer, but artists get this too. The audio folks get it. QA gets it. And I'll talk about how things have improved. I'll start with some things, and I'm almost immediately redirect you to that work-life balance one. Long hours. That's just something that is part and parcel with the game industry. I think this has improved, and I think crunch has decreased. I will go on record again as saying I do not think it can be completely solved because long hours kind of go with the you're making a video game, which I view as much art as science. As much
every game is unique. Even the ones that seem like they're, every game and every team is unique, right? So you could have one company making a racing game and another company making a racing game, and they're like almost the same games. But company one might have better technology or better understanding of how to solve certain things than the other, vice versa. And it's just, you can have massive production issues with team number two because the right knowledge isn't there, or they didn't do enough good pre-production. Maybe their code architecture is messed up. Maybe their design is bottlenecked. Whatever. I mean, and you could have any combination of these. You could have all these things. You could also just have, I don't know, there's just so many mistakes or issues, or, you can't find the right people to hire even though you know what needs to be done. And it can all just kind of lead to production issues with which if that debt is not paid, it will continue to compound. And at a certain point in your alpha or your beta, you realize that the game is horrible. The game is horrible, or it's so buggy that it can't be completed, and there's no way in hell that you're going to make your release. And so you have to delay the game, or you have to crunch the hell out of it. Usually a little bit of both, because the publishers, the cheapest way to make the game is the one that they want. Because they don't understand that, well, I mean, they do understand that, unfortunately, in some respects, gamers will still buy a buggy game on release as opposed to waiting and not spending their money until it's in a better shape. Sorry to say, but the numbers are there, and they wouldn't do it if it didn't make them money. So it depends on the scale, though, right? It is nuanced. It's not a universal rule. I think crunch has decreased, though. Crunch has decreased, but it is still there, and it's still prevalent. And maybe Tim's right. Maybe it can't be reduced entirely. I think that it should still be a goal. I do know companies that don't crunch, but it's often because they have the financial stability that they can afford not to.
Just making a movie or a TV show or writing a book, it can't be proceduralized. And I see many producers try to do it. Usually inexperienced producers are like, I will give them 4 weeks of R&D and then we'll know everything we have to do and nothing.
Yeah, let's give the designer 1 week and they will have the design document and every problem will be solved at the end of 1 week. And the designer is taking a look at this massive system and is like, bro, I don't even know what we want to do with it yet. Like, all I have is 2 paragraphs in a GDD that say that we want to have, I don't know, a company management system. I don't know how we're going to solve that. And then we need to sit down with the team leads and we need to pitch the idea even after. So it's like, okay, I'll come up with some high level bullet points. And then the tech team, tech art, our programmers are going to tell me that we can't do it. So I have to go back to the drawing board. You can't estimate these things. To some extent, you could maybe estimate time needed for certain art tasks. Sometimes. Maybe sometimes for certain programming tasks. sometimes, but the more creative the work, the more the work is just you pulling things out of thin air and trying to compile and organize them, the less likely this is to just happen in a set amount of time. I cannot predict how long it will take me to do certain design. Sometimes I finish sooner than expected. Sometimes it is way, way, way later than expected. It's hard to control.
Think will ever change after that? Yeah.
No.
So, long hours, I think, have gotten better. I think we've gotten better at predicting how long things will take, but we've also gotten better at realizing that no matter what stage you are in game development, there's going to be additional
Unknowns.
time that you need to schedule that you can't account for.
When the shit hits the fan.
And even me saying that, and you try to account for it, there's still going to be time you can't account for.
You can budget 3 extra months of padding, right? Of overflow. And maybe that's enough. But I've also worked on a game that was delayed like 9 months. So, and we didn't schedule any padding for that. So, you can try to schedule a padding, but you won't know the unknowns that you're going to run into, and you can do your best to minimize unknowns by doing good pre-production and making a good vertical slice. But it won't solve everything. It will not.
So let's jump into the next negative health issue, which is stress. The industry has always been stressful, still is stressful for different reasons. Back then, just getting in the game industry was difficult because there were very few game companies, very few jobs, and if you got them, you had to perform because so many people wanted your job. Now, that's true, but for different reasons.
Yes.
The game industry is much bigger. There's a lot more jobs out there. But
it's also way more competitive for the people, and you're competing on a global... you're competing with a global market as opposed to the local market, where if you moved to, let's say, Santa Monica, California, back then you would be, a top candidate for Santa Monica jobs. But now with hybrid or remote work, they can just hire somebody from around the world as long as the time zone matches up, or they're willing to work in that time zone for a lot cheaper. I don't really feel great things about this, but this is the reality of the way that the industry works right now.
But there's also a lot of layoffs and turnover, and so that makes everything stressful.
A lot of turnover.
And there are a lot of people who want into the game industry even more than back then.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, I was told multiple times it was a silly job and I'm going to grow up and get over it.
Yep.
Now people see it as a career, possibly even a calling. I've got a video about that.
That's me.
But there's a lot of people who view it as 9 to 5, and that's okay. If you want to be, my job in the game industry is a job, that's fine. Let's discuss that in my jobs, callings, and career video.
Which we reacted to on our
The
YouTube.
next really big cause of negative health is the amount of sitting you will do. You will do so much sitting when
Yes, and I purposefully try to stand and get It's the reason why I don't like working. One of the reasons I don't like working from home is that I don't like feeling like I'm cooped up or pacing or like I'm in a prison. I did that for like 3 years with Darkest Dungeon, just because I had to, right? Because I didn't have any money and I was still in my parents' house, and I hated it. I hated every second from it. It felt like I was just in purgatory. Every day, wake up, turn on computer, do work, same room, stop work, play game, still same room, same computer, eat, go to bed. And that was just day after day, weekday, weekend, holiday, birthday, doesn't matter, same thing, 24/7. And it was really bad. It was really unhealthy. And even when I did do some walking, because I worked on like a weird, I kind of worked like graveyard shift just because I liked it when I was that young. And I would still walk to the 24-hour gas station to buy food or a hot cocoa. And that was nice. I like that. But now I try to separate that work-life balance more. And this is my work computer. This is my office. And I try to do work-related stuff here. Even if I'm playing a game, I'm doing it for Micro Raptor. I'm doing it for our channel. And I'm thinking about that. When I go home and I play a game, I turn my brain off. I don't talk to anyone. I don't, like chat. I don't stream. I rarely ever stream from home. only if it's like really hot night because I have air conditioning there. And that separation and that walk to and from my office helps to get me into each mode and to separate that a bit. So yeah, it's sitting and just separating that work life is something that you don't see with remote work, and I know that it drives people crazy. People that told me that I was wrong, Joey, you're wrong. I know you have experience, but I'm different. I will enjoy working from home and working remotely, and I will be happier than I've ever been because I won't have to travel to and from work. And then like 1 month in, some people held out for half a year. They would tell me I hate it. It feels like I'm not socializing. I'm not getting anywhere. Like, I know. Sorry. I tried to warn you. Here are some solutions. Try to like to be hybrid, or maybe come into the office a couple days a week, or maybe consider coming back to the office. It's just better. It's just we're humans. We need the socialization, and nobody likes to feel like they're in a prison.
Will do so much sitting when game development because you got to work on a computer,
Yep.
so you got to be at a desk, and when you're not at a desk, you're usually in a meeting. So
Sadly.
it's sit, then more sitting, then go to another room and sit some more, possibly go to lunch and sit even more. Things have gotten better in this, especially with standing desks. The last few years I was at Obsidian, I
I've
had a
considered one
standing
of those.
desk. That was great. My first standing desk was my old desk on cinder blocks, which was okay, but what that meant was there was no option. I was standing. We compensated. We got these desk chairs that could go up literally like a bar stool height. So you could still sit at your standing desk if you wanted to, but then my legs would dangle.
Yeah, I don't
It
like
felt
that.
really weird to be 6 foot tall and having your legs
Yeah.
dangle like you're a toddler. I felt like I was in a high chair. I finally got a mechanized one, and that was day and night. What I would do is I would arrive at work and I'd sit for an hour or so, and then I'd raise up my desk and I'd work for a few hours. Then I'd go to lunch, come back, lower the desk, sit for an hour or two, and then raise it again, finish the day standing. So I mixed standing and sitting, which apparently is what you're supposed to do. To me, it just felt comfortable that way. We also found ways of shortening meetings. So we tried to make meetings with just the people we needed in those meetings. When I did have the weekly team meeting, which at some point was 70 people, we held it in the only room in at Obsidian that could handle a meeting of that size. By demand, most people had to stand. It was done in this big main room we had next to the kitchen, and there were only a few seats in there, so most people stood. But we tried to keep that meeting to like 10 or 15 minutes. And it was just, here's an update. Here's everything you need to know about what's going on, like what's going on with the publisher, what's going on in the game. If you play the game, here's some things you should probably look at. Here's some really cool things that just went in the game if you haven't seen them yet. And that was it. We kept it to like 10 minutes.
It's a good meeting, by the way. I've worked at a place where the discussions between the publisher and the developer, us the developer, were not really shared with the companies. So the company just didn't like we didn't know what was going on. Like we would come in and we would do our tasks, but we had no overarching goal of how we were doing and whether or not the publisher was happy. And there were also some lies being told in there. And yeah, it wasn't good. It's just you need to treat people like adults. I mean, they are adults, right? You can't hire kids, so you're hiring adults, and you need to treat them like that and treat them with respect. And the bad news for a lot of people in the industry is not a horrible thing. Sometimes it can even motivate coming up with solutions or to take things a bit more seriously. I don't know. It's just some of it depends on work culture and the level of news that you need to give. And obviously, you don't want to provide all news until it's more solidified, because then it might be pointless or taking up time and resources or even brain power that isn't needed yet because the finalization isn't there. So no, I agree. Sitting is bad, and if you do have those meetings, I think standing meetings are great just because it kind of it keeps the flow, and it's not like, okay, sit down and relax and let's talk. Sometimes you just want to be, okay, come on in, everybody. All right, let's talk about this. How's the day going? What are you working on? Any problems? Here's some updates about the company, about the publisher, and then all right, let's get back to it. Things like that. Nice and easy.
Let me. It's funny. I was talking about sitting, and when I was writing down this, I thought, you know what? Exercise kind of plays into this. And once I got past my first company I was at, Cybron, which was in the 80s, yeah, kids, I'm old. Every company after that had really good options for employee exercise and making it easy and convenient for you, and it got better with each company. Let's start with Interplay, where I worked at in the 90s. That first building they had, well, the first building they had didn't have it because that was a smaller building over in Costa Mesa. But when they moved to Irvine, they bought a 2-story building that at one end had a racquetball court. We got it refinished, and we had people were playing racquetball there every day. We had to put a sign up sheet because there were at least, I would say, half a dozen racquetball games every day. I started running a racquetball tournament, a racquetball ladder. In the newsletter, the company newsletter, I had a column called Ask Dr. Rackethead, and I'd take questions about how to get in the racquetball group and also what the rankings were, and that was fun, and everybody had a lot of fun with that, and it was.
Some like executives might look at that and say, "Oh, if you're playing racquetball, you're not getting work done." But I would argue that in a lot of those cases, you are getting work done. And it's bonding too, and bonding is important because miscommunications can occur, and everybody has a different communication style. And if you can take the time to learn somebody else's communication style and bond with them, it minimizes risk for miscommunication and especially hurt feelings. And so by playing racquetball with either like the same person or other people, you might talk about work related things or about your feelings with the game or with the company and about ideas you had or issues you were facing, and you might get help with that while you're playing, but you're also talking with the person, and you're less likely to have that awkwardness, or you might feel less dissentive or to just to talk to them, right? If you start working at a company, everybody's new, you don't know anyone, and it can be kind of awkward and a little bit, you're a bit shy maybe, and you feel like you don't know everybody's different mood and whether or not somebody's gonna blow up at you if you give them an idea. Hopefully nobody in the company does that, but people are people and moods are moods. Sometimes people can just be in a bad mood, something going wrong at home. So it's a way to de-stress. It's a way to get some activity which is proven to be good for your health, and a way to bond. I mean, there's a lot of positives to it. So yeah, just having that and investing in that, I think, has difficult to see benefits, but verifiable benefits if you could see it.
It's great because you could literally play a full game of racquetball and take a shower on your lunch hour without even leaving the office, which means if you brown bagged it, like I frequently did, it was great. You could go home at night and you've already gotten a really good exercise in the middle of the day. Troika, when I started Troika, I wanted something, but we were such a small company, we couldn't afford anything
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
hard for that.
And unfortunately, my cat that I'd had for 10 years passed away right after we started Troika. And I mentioned this in my pets video that I went and got a dog from the pound named Cooter. And he had separation anxiety, so I brought him to work. He needed to be walked every few hours, so I would go out walking him. The afternoon walk, I announced as, this is a group
God,
walk
my
if
cat has
anybody wants to
separation
go.
anxiety.
It's 20 minutes. It was along this huge block that I think was half a mile on a side. So I think it was like a 2-mile walk. We'd do it in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Because we walked slow and Cooter had
Just
to sniff
probably
things
chat and
poop.
bond, right?
But we talked a lot, and some people learned that was a great one-on-one time. I need to talk. I need to explain a feature to Tim, or I'm stuck on a particularly difficult programming bug. We could walk and talk, and then you didn't even notice you were exercising. And
I did that at one of my companies for we used lunch breaks. I started what I called the food group, which we kind of joked that we were like a gang, and we knew all of the ins and outs of the local restaurants, and when certain deals were and what certain food was available. But it was nice, but it was cool because the people that were part of the food group were me, who was the game designer and eventually the lead game designer, the lead artist, the lead programmer, and one of the other 3D artists who now I think he is a lead. So it was a great time to just throw out ideas, talk about technical issues and solutions while having fun, joke. Some days we talked about issues, others we just talked about like movies or happenings, and it was great. And it never felt forced. It was never like, yes, this is the time. Now let's go to eat food, but also talk about work. It was just sometimes we had to talk about both, or sometimes it was just talking about like somebody's family and their kid, and it was great. And so, yeah, it's like we would take 30 minutes to an hour for lunch, and we were getting our food, and that was our right, to get our food. But also, we were solving problems that it was easier to solve by guaranteeing that time. And it wasn't like some awkward meeting. It's like, yes, we wanted our food at the same time. So even if we had nothing work related to talk about, we were still doing something that we needed to do. Yeah, it was great. And so I think that Tim's idea here, where like walk the dog, 30-minute walk, one-on-one time, it's perfect. And so much work gets done during those that it's hard to see if you don't go on one of those walks or meetings.
What I loved about it was Cooter got his exercise, he got his socialization in, and we were
And
still
so did they.
doing work kind of.
Yeah.
It was a really cool overlap of that.
And by the way, you can just bond way better with somebody with that body language, and you minimize problems with miscommunications with that. Again one of the reasons why I do not like work from home and remote work. I don't know. This is just a personal thing. I'm not saying that it's good or bad the way that things are now, but I definitely do not prefer remote work. I like working in the office with other people. I feel like I just have better socialization, better general happiness day to day, and it's nice to be able to say, "Hey, you wanna go out for a beer? Wanna just like grab a drink or a coffee or whatever and just chat?" Like, oh, it's 3 p.m. on a Friday. Do you want to leave a little bit early, go grab a drink, and we can continue the discussion? Because it's like we don't have anything work to do, so just let's fucking go. Hey, Dremels, you like my cut? I appreciate it. Yeah, I wanted something nice wanted a nice fresh fade for my release.
Going up to Obsidian,
1 hour.
Obsidian has a company softball team, so they encourage you to join.
That's cool.
They also had a lease that included gym access in a nearby building. So right there, they're like, you can play on the company team and you can go to this company
Sometimes
gym.
I wish I worked for a company like
for no money whatsoever,
like
you can get a lot of exercise in and hang out with coworkers. The really cool thing, Obsidian is right across the street from a giant open air mall. Really big one, famous one too. And
That's cool.
if you went to there for lunch, that lunch included a free, somewhat long walk, especially if, like me, you like the really awesome. There was a Korean Mexican fusion joint, but it was on the opposite side of that mall. Just walking there and back was probably a mile. And I would do it because if you haven't had a kimchi quesadilla, you haven't lived.
Kimchi case. Okay, I would definitely try Korean Mexican fusion, and also the walking. I don't know about you guys, but walking through malls with like a lot of people in them is kind of fun. Like, obviously, if it's too crowded, it's a little bit annoying, but it's nice just to have the bustle, to see people moving, and usually there's a lot of interesting things to see. There's a lot of visual pleasure in a mall, and it's just relaxing. It's kind of just relaxing to walk around a mall. I mean, it's so relaxing that there are people who just are wall walkers. Mall walkers. Jesus Christ, say that 10 times fast. And walking is good after you eat. So it's just, I agree with Tim. I 100% agree with Tim on all this.
Anyway, those are just ways that companies kind of encouraged their employees to be more active without really strong arming them into being more active. And I think things have gotten better over time. Real quick, I want to talk about 2 more things about what you do in development. One is typing. You will do a lot of typing. There's just a lot of stuff you have to do, whether you're using software or literally writing design documents or coding. You're doing a lot
Early
of typing.
onset arthritis.
It's hard to avoid doing a lot of typing. But keyboards have gotten better over the years, especially ergonomic keyboards. I never even saw one the first decade I was in the industry. I'm not sure they existed in the 80s. Saw a few in the 90s, and it was usually some people who were getting carpal tunnel which was a thing. People got a lot of carpal tunnel in the 90s. I avoided it, but I don't touch type. I hunt and peck, so I can type about as fast as I can think, which isn't that fast.
No, Tim. No, I used to get carpal tunnel a lot. What helped me was my armrests. I try to keep my armrests at the same height as my desk. And so for me, desk height and chair height is really, really crucial. And I specifically try to find desks and chairs that will match in height if I can get it there. So that way I don't get carpal. You know, like my wrists aren't like this, but my arms are just flat. And that helps. That helps a lot with things. This is staying healthy while developing games, Strokes. But yeah, I used to get carpal a lot when my desk was higher and I had to like reach up. Um, Now I try to either reach just flat or down. The problem is that sometimes that puts my monitors at a height where I'm kind of like looking down at them, which isn't always pleasurable, but it's better to be comfortable while working, that's for sure. Speaking of lack of comfortability while working, it is pretty hot in my office today.
I saw keyboards get better
I need to
and
get air
better,
conditioning
more
in here.
ergonomic. They split in two. I saw keyboards that hang off the side of people's chairs, so they were typing like this.
That's wild.
Things only got better. Same thing with screens. We used to have these really low res, big, boxy, heat generating, enormous monitors. You want two monitors? Yeah, you're going to have to get a bigger desk. Three monitors? That's insane. Now, flat screens, better resolution, way better contrast.
Mm-hmm.
Don't underestimate having a deep black is very useful.
Especially for artists.
Far reduced reflectivity. All of this is so much better on your eyeballs. And by the way, I'm going to talk about color blindness again because every single optometrist I've ever seen, when they found out I had a family genetic adult onset color blindness,
That's a thing?
would often say, "Oh, you probably work on monitors."
You can have like genetic color blindness? I didn't know that. Genetic adult onset color blindness. I never knew that that was a thing. That's crazy. One back then, CRT would weigh, yeah, dude, it really would. CRTs were
It's a
so
lot
heavy.
because apparently there's something about working on closely on monitors that take your cones, really it's hard on them because you're staring at usually brightly colored images. You know, people my code used to be yellow letters on bright blue background, which I thought looked cool.
Oh my
But you
god,
stare at
Tim.
that for 8, 10, 12 hours a
Yellow,
day.
yellow letters on bright blue background. Tim. Tim, what have you done? I mean, he is colorblind. I don't know if he sees blue and yellow as anything. Maybe he sees blue and yellow as, I don't know what type of color blindness he has, but maybe like one of them is gray. Maybe it's like gray and, you know, like darker, but I don't know. Maybe it looks better for him. You can have a twin at birth that's just a ball of flesh. Thank you, Paxian Games. That is a very interesting piece of, you have black on black.
Your eyes aren't
Oh
used to
god.
doing that. Your eyes are used to looking at all kinds of things in the distance and near. And so not only did it aggravate my nearsightedness, but it probably triggered my color blindness because all my brothers and sisters have it, but they didn't get it until their 30s or 40s.
Really? I had never heard of somebody getting color blindness later in life. I thought you were just born with that. I mean, I guess it could be either, right? It's like diabetes. Like you can get it as a kid. A lot of people get it as an adult. Type 1 and type 2. Wild. Wow. I did not know that. You guys ever use those e-ink displays? I always found these fascinating ever since the first Kindle came out. They're like super, really, really low, low power displays that have exceptional black and white contrast and don't even look like a screen. They're really cool, and I feel like you can only really appreciate one until you hold one or see one. They're amazing, and they look amazing in like sunlight. And you can have like a little small thing like this that its battery will last like a week of constant use. Um, Really cool. I think I don't know if you could benefit from coding on one of these. You have a Kobo and it's perfect. What does a Kobo look like? Kobo e-reader. Oh, you can make it like white on black too? That's kind of cool. I've always wondered maybe if coding on an e-ink display. Like, look at this. This looks so good. And they don't reflect at all. You can read them out in the sunlight. They last forever. I really wish I could get one. They look pretty good for manga too. Cool stuff. I used to have one of the first Kindles, but now I don't anymore. I think I gave it to somebody.
Brothers and sisters have it, but they didn't get it until their 30s or 40s, and mine showed up when I was 20. My first time I went to an eye doctor, I missed one of those bubble charts at age 20. So I think screens have gotten better, and I think one reason my color blindness finally got to a level where it petered off was because of that. So I think that's all the things I can think of. Like I said, I think physical health has improved across the board at every company I've ever worked at, and things got better over time. But I'd sure love to hear what you guys think and what you think companies can do to even improve things past where they are now. And I hope this answered your question, RoboCG.
Yeah, good video, as usual, because it's Tim Cain, right? It's a good video. I think that I don't know, I've had some bad experiences with certain companies and good experiences, of course. And I think while physical health is always a problem, mental health is still very much a problem in the industry. I've seen several people trying to code on one of those. The refresh rate is very low, but if you can put up with that, oh yeah, I would assume so. The refresh rate. That's a good point. That could introduce a lot more eye strain than you would think. You're right. Burnout rate is through the roof. Yeah, there's a lot of burnout, and people who are normally very passionate can experience very high levels of burnout. Which ruins their motivation and even sometimes their efficiency during work. So I think trying to avoid burnout and just trying to maintain a positive atmosphere is really important. Sometimes though, I've seen companies mistake toxic positive, or like they mistake keeping a positive atmosphere with always being positive, which creates toxic positivity, right? You can never talk about anything bad because that means that it's going to lower morale, and lower morale means that the game is everything's going to be worse from that. But I think that people feel generally worse if they feel like they're being kept in the dark, or certain things that are obviously bad are not being actually like done anything about. And that you can I think that feeling bad about something like, hey, we got a milestone that wasn't approved, or our producer just played it and they said that this part of the game was really bad, and we need to readdress that. Yes, that has an immediate short-term negative effect. That's something you thought that you all did great on turned out to not be great. But then you need to start fixing it, and you can find ways to fix it and find ways to make it better, and that will have an even better positive effect. And you start to teach your employees that you are okay with confronting the negative aspects of your game and the bad parts and trying to find a way to fix them. So toxic positivity is a massive problem, and we can see how this manifested itself on games like Concord, which reportedly had a lot of toxic positivity, and I think even some other places. Gaming toxic positivity. I mean, even Asmund talked about it, and that might have been specifically targeting places like Concord. I don't know if it was ever verified, though, but there was some mention of that. So yeah, toxic positivity is not good. So thank you for watching that one, guys. I will catch you on the next one on YouTube. And if you're watching on Twitch, stick around because we still have to release our game today. So we got to do that. So maybe we can have time for one more, then release the game, chill out for a bit, and then we can jump into... well, we'll see what we have time. But if you're watching on YouTube, I hope you appreciated that one. Sorry, I'm starting to mumble because I've been talking so much today. But take care. Bye-bye, YouTube.